and I'm the founder of InsightLA, and I want to welcome you all to our Sunday morning sitting group. This morning, I am actually speaking to you from Ram Dass's study in his house on Maui in Hawaii. Wait, Jim just asked me something in the chat. You know, I am on the Ethernet, Jim, here in the house. So I'm plugged into the Ethernet. Hold on. Let me double check. How is the sound now? I just off and got on. Jim, how is it? Is it wobbling a little? Well, can you all hear me and what I'm saying? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Because as long as you can hear and understand what I'm saying, we can deal with a little quavery internet, if that's what it is here. It's been a long time since Ram Dass taught from this study, given that he passed away just about 2 years ago. And he really wasn't teaching on Zoom for the last year of his passed away. And the sick all the time. So I'm here system quickly where I am, just so you can see. Let's see. I don't know if you can see that there's a kind of massage table with a blanket on it. Body lay when after he passed away. His bedroom is through the door right there. And there's always a beautiful arrangement of flowers on that blanket, which represents the blanket of his teacher, Neem Karoli Baba, affectionately called Maharaji. And then I don't know if you can see his chair back there. Oh, you can see out the window how beautiful it is. I don't know if you can see his big chair he always sat in, but anyway, now you can see where I am. And in this study, it's really become a secret place, is where everybody in the household meditates every morning. Usually they're meditating right now, but this morning that they built outside this morning. And this morning, I really, I'm holding a lot of grief friends who were killed. We'll talk to you about gratitude and grief and maybe everything in between this morning. And in the meantime, for those of you who may be new, our time together is roughly into thirds. We do a half an hour of meditation, receive some teachings, and then have almost a half hour for a conversation with each other. So now we're going to meditate together. And I do a little bit of guidance during the meditation. I understand that I'm freezing intermittently. Thank you, Marilyn. And I just want to know, can you understand me enough? Is there enough continuity in the connection that you can actually understand me? Raise your thumb if you can. And if I don't see any thumbs, I'm going to understand that it's too hard. Okay. I will turn off my video for now, but I'm here with you. And if people are making suggestions, I am going to turn off the video for the meditation. And that's fine, because I'm hoping you wouldn't be staring. I don't think it helps if you turn off your video. The issue's on my end. Thank you, Bernard. But, and anyway, I don't want to talk to you with all of your videos off. I mean, it's fine if many of you have your video off, but I really appreciate seeing some of your faces. So I'm going to stop my video while we do the meditation together. And if you can't hear me that well, just stay as present as you can with your breath and with what as you meditate. And you tell me is this a little bit better with the video off? I can see you even though you can't see me. So if it sounds at all better, give me a thumbs up. No thumbs up. Okay, while you meditate, I'm going to start you off. Oh, there is a thumbs up. Thank you, Caroline. I was going to say I'll go downstairs and see if I can get some tech support. Thank you. But I'd like to meditate with you. Find your body that will allow you to be comfortable and that will allow you to sit quietly without moving, lowering, closing eyes, taking a deep breath in, breathing in the aliveness of this moment, and breathing out, releasing anything that came before this moment. Taking another breath in and breathing out everything that may follow this moment. One more breath in and out. Just relaxing into here. This is a time to just reset. To be present with only what's happening right now. Open for all of experience. Maybe. Present. Appreciating the blessing of the breath, the sky, the body, the aliveness of being here. And we'll begin with the breath, and then I'm going to lead you in a specific practice. Just appreciating that the breath isn't trying to get anywhere. Breathing in and breathing out demonstrates the steadiness of constant presence with ever-changing experience. Allowing the breath to breathe you. Your body gently moving with the breath. Allowing it to come into its own natural depth, pace, and flow. Allowing the breath to breathe itself. We're cooperating with it rather than trying to control it. And this is good training for the rest of life. Where we also have only partial control. So as I speak to you now, leading this meditation, I want you to please just give me a thumbs up if you hear me clearly. So you don't have to open your eyes or look up, but if you can hear me more clearly, just please raise your thumb because I think we fixed it. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, thank you, guys. So here we are, the breath inviting us to relax and recover our balance. Not that you lost your balance or I did, but we do. We just do. It's appreciating how remarkable and wonderful it is that we're kept alive in each moment. Through this mysterious process of inhalation and exhalation. Appreciating this miracle of air to breathe, a body to take it in, and a consciousness to observe it. Let yourself see how it was for you, what you did 10 years ago, how you acted, and envision this positive future that you can live into. Just asking yourself, what do you want on your canvas? It's not a luxury to take time to reflect on this. If the picture you're looking at isn't in balance, how might you balance it? And as you breathe, coming back to a space of love, breathing more gently, maybe setting the intention to treat yourself and others and the earth more gently. Coming into appreciation of just this moment, sitting in your home, wherever you are, and enjoying it as a great blessing. how blessed it is to walk on the earth. To walk in gratitude and thankfulness. The sound of the plane, the distant bird songs appear and disappear. The breath is born, has its being, and vanishes each breath. Everything is like this. Our meditation time appeared. We lived it, and now it ends. So, Jim, if you hear me, you can ring the bell. And if you don't, thank you, thank you, thank you. So thank you, everybody, for your patience. I hope the internet connection will be stable now. Two of the young men who live here in the house, which has become an ashram. It's a place of practice. And for those of you who may have just arrived, I am actually speaking to you from Ram Dass's study, which has become the meditation room for the household. And it's a room where his presence is still palpable. There's a real atmosphere of stillness and presence. And I'll just briefly show you, for those who weren't here at the beginning, this is the view out the window that he looked at. The trees and the sky and the clouds and the ocean. And then over there, you can see the table, the massage table with a plaid blanket in honor of his guru, who always sat in the plaid blanket, his teacher, Neem Karoli Baba. And that is where his body laid for 3 days after he passed away. And he passed away in the room behind. You can see the doorway to his bedroom from up here. And I want to speak with you a little bit about gratitude as the Thanksgiving holiday ends. There's always practices of gratitude and meditation centers and monasteries for all that's been given to us. And at the same time, before going on and talking to you about appreciating this life, I feel like our whole meditation practice could really be said to be for appreciation. But before talking to you about all of this, I really need to name something that happened this week that some of you may know about, and that is that my two beloved friends, Katie J. Scott and Gabriel Storing, who've been married for 11 years. They celebrated their 11th anniversary in September. And they are the founders of what I call a small but mighty anti-genocide group called IACT. And they are the ones who led me into the work with the refugees in the Camp Gozamir in Eastern Chad, where I went with Gabriel and Jocelyn and two others of their staff at that time. They were killed Tuesday night in a car accident not far from their home. And it's so hard and unreal to, here are people who worked in the most dangerous places in the world, some of them, including where we were together. We were 45 minutes on a dirt road. So it wasn't 45 minutes if you had a decent vehicle from the border of Darfur, Sudan. And I mean, rebels could pour over the border or come from any direction at any time. And one time when Katie J and Gabriel were there, they did. And they described lying on the floor while bullets were whizzing over their heads and having to basically lie there for, I don't know, a long time. So they went to Central African Republic just a few weeks ago, which is also, it's a country that's has been unstable for decades, with a dictatorship and corruption and so forth that plagues so many of the countries. It's a country that a friend of mine who wanted to bring me to Zambia to do some of the work that I learned with Katie J and Gabriel wouldn't even have his plane fly over Central African Republic. And they've gone to places like this and come back with all of us, waiting until they're back and praying for them in whatever way we do that, and always came back fine. And somebody ran a red light and they were killed instantly. And their little daughter, Layla, was in the back seat and she's okay. Some bruises and I guess she had a mild concussion, but she's fine. And thank goodness, Gabriel had extremely loving 3 sisters, very loving family who have all rallied. And then there's all of us, the IACT family, also here, ready to help figure out how to continue the work, because the work was so radical. It was so simple, but so radical, which was to stand next to the refugees, to ask them what they wanted and needed for their communities, to let them be empowered to deliver what they needed with their support. So I wanted to just show you who they are, since I'm talking about them. And I'll probably cry too, but I've sobbed so much. I got the news when we had come here for Thanksgiving, because the memorial retreat in honor of Ram Dass starts this coming week. And I was standing at the carousel waiting for the luggage when I spoke to Jocelyn, and honestly just stood there sobbing for the longest time. And I'll talk about what comforts, during a time of intense grief. I was really close to them. And they're the kind of people that made everybody feel, like Ram Dass did that too, make everybody feel you're their special, loving friend. But Caroline, can you show that? It's just the clip from what's on their website, but it gives you a sense of who they are and what they do.
Yes, I'm pulling it up now.
Thank you.
Oh, wait.
The video is underneath.
This one?
Yeah.
When I first saw a refugee camp, at first I was just hit by the enormity of it. There's this sea of tents and 20,000 people. It's overwhelming just being hit by that and saying, okay, I have no excuses.
Can you guys hear?
I just have to do something.
Yes.
That's why we started
Yes.
IAC. IAC's mission is to provide humanitarian action to aid, empower, and extend hope to those affected by mass atrocities. We work with refugees on providing education for their children, sports activities, and human rights curriculum. At every step of the way, we work next to the refugees. We see the refugees as the ones that have all the solutions within them already.
Very good.
So that's how I decided that we needed to go out there and listen to their stories. Their village was destroyed. The older two sons were killed during the attack on their village by a militia. Then they had to walk across the desert to make it to Chad. On the walk, another boy, a young boy, died on Ashta's back. And then they made it to this camp and have been living here since. And this is their home.
Yes.
Refugee camps are full of doctors, they're full of community organizers, they're full of teachers and midwives and people who've had experience. They've just gone through a horrific experience themselves, but that doesn't take away all the assets that they bring with them when they come into the camp. If you can start the conversation with listening, it opens up the opportunity for that person not only to be heard, but to feel like they're part of the solution. When a community itself feels empowered and has the right skills and capacity to take the program and expand it and run it without outside influence, I feel like that is success.
We take hope very seriously. These children, boys and girls, are going to be the leaders. Supporting their hopes and aspirations for a peaceful life is making the world a more peaceful and more humane place for everyone.
I act because I know that we can live in a peaceful world. And I know that if people are empowered and feel fulfilled, then peace will come.
I act because I'm a father, and I believe that every father should be able to give their children hope.
Thank you, Caroline. So that just gives you a glimpse of my friends. They asked me to come and establish the mindfulness component of their programs. The refugees asked for soccer so they could feel like part of the world and not just, exiled to these open prison camps. There are 300,000 plus refugees along that border with Sudan, and in that camp that Gabriel, there's, I don't know, maybe almost 40,000 people now, where there were 20 then. And they were looking for somebody who could bring mindfulness into the programs. The refugees wanted a preschool program because there was nothing for the little children. And I think they wanted childcare too, because the parents would be out foraging for, I don't even know what they could find in sub-Sahel, but sometimes they could have a little plot of land and grow something, but it would be miles from the camp where they would have to walk. And then older children, not very old, would watch the younger children who would get, burned in the fire or drown in a wadi or something. So they wanted a preschool program. And I had no wish to go to that camp, to be honest, and tried to get every colleague I knew who had early childhood education training and mindfulness training, both of which I had, but nobody would go. So I actually went. And it was kind of scary because I couldn't take the malaria meds, and the malaria there was just a really bad kind that goes into your brain and kills you after 4 or 5 days. But I really had the trust, I would just get in my tent at dusk, my, what do you call it? My bed net, the mosquito net. And I would just stay in there until the sun rose. And obviously came back to tell the tale because there's no medical care for anybody anywhere near the camps. So what I've been experiencing, it just shows so clearly what it says in the text, that karma, that your life can change as suddenly as the swish of a horse's tail. That's the expression. And, Gabriel had picked up Katie J at the airport. She'd been in Greece working with Syrian and Turkish other refugees. And so, you just don't know. You don't know. And we know intellectually that we don't know. But the teaching is to see the reality of change, to see this, to understand deeply that death is real, that this body will be a corpse, inevitably, all of us. And to hold that truth as a kind of beacon to help us decide, how do we want to live this life, this precious life that's been given to us. And, I don't focus on mortality and the reality of death and dying to be morbid at the end of the holiday or to make you all super anxious, but it's to appreciate the preciousness of life. That's the reason that these teachings are taught. And that's the reason that in the earlier days of InsightLA, I would show pictures of decaying corpses, like, this is your fate. This is what's going to happen. People never forgot it. I actually don't do that anymore, and I won't do it to you. But it's just a way of saying, look, this is what it is. This is what we're involved in here. And for me, bearing witness to what happens when the gates between the worlds open, really, and swallow up Katie J and Gabriel. I would ask myself, we were talking at dinner last night, like, what would Ram Dass say? I mean, this is a household that's, built around continuing his teachings and doing the practices of chanting and meditating and so forth that he did. And we all knew what he would say, which would be very, very kindly and very gently. Attachment. Yes, it's attachment. That's what the Buddha, that's what all the great teachers would say. But this attachment is also our ability to love and to appreciate each other. And every human being has gifts to offer to the world. Every single one of us, whether we feel like we do or not, you do. And I think that's one of the reasons I want to do that meditation, which we also did a different version of it at the benefit on November 6th for InsightLA. Because looking back, it may be easier sometimes to see what it is. What is your unique, particular take on life, that you can offer to the world? I've been writing some stories of my life, a memoir. And I said a chapter to a friend who said, that was really interesting. I was like, yeah, well, why don't you write one? You have as many stories in your life. And he agreed. He said, yes, I do. So the practices of remembering death, you don't practice it. It just comes into your life when you lose two special friends. And these folks, they were so special. I remember when they came to visit and they sat on my couch and they were telling me why I was the perfect person to come to Chad. And it was irresistible because, why they were so, and always were so selfless and loving and fun. Katie J played soccer. Her mom put her in soccer when she was very young, and she played all the way through college. And Gabriel was just such a committed father. He had 2 older children from a previous marriage who are comforting and living with their little sister right now. They're both in college. and they've come home and they're staying with their sister for a while. And just when people are so selfless and so loving and so fun and so it's irresistible. It's irresistible, and it's also very difficult to really understand that death is real, that this will happen to each one of us, and it's just super painful. And the grief, it's important, you know. So in some of the ancient texts, the Buddhist tradition, grief is described not very respectfully as a form of aversion, you know, and it's true. It's in the simplest way. When you're grieving, we are averse to the experience that has happened, the loss of our precious loved ones, whoever they are. But it's more than that. And when we see grief in that way, when it's described that way, really lose the richness and the complexity of the full experience of grief. And the practice is to stay steady, to just absorb what's going on. And staying steady doesn't mean some particular mood, that you're steadily in that one mood. What does it mean? You know this. It means staying steady, steadily present with all the ups and downs of the heart. And grief is like that. There are times, you know, yesterday we were enjoying swimming in the ocean, and I could see fish and swam really far, and that's all that was real. The sound of the breath, the sight of the reef in that place. It's a protected marine park, the Ahihi Reserve, and so the coral is still kind of okay, and it was just a beautiful experience, and that was fine. But then emerging from the ocean after almost 2 hours, you know, the grief comes in waves, like the water. The grief comes in waves. And then when a wave of grief comes, it kind of just pulls you under, and all of you, everybody has lost someone you love, probably, unless you're super young. And you know that it comes in waves. And so what is comforting? What is comforting at that time? Several people have called and said, oh, I'd love to talk. That's not, for me, that's not comforting. It might be for you, but to know what is comforting for you. For me, what's comforting is just quiet. Somebody who has the ability to sit and just be quiet for a few minutes and just listen if I need to talk, but just being very present with whatever's going on and willing to sit in that stillness. And maybe just for a period of 3 breaths. And I share this with you because it's always awkward, and there can be anxiety. What do you say or what do you do when somebody has lost some, people who are important to them in their lives? And I think it was interesting. One of the most comforting things that anybody said to me was not about them or their daughter or or IACT. It was from Beth, who I hope will come and teach this group in January at some point. She's been busy teaching till then, but Beth's response was, she said, I wish with all my heart that it could be different. And I loved that, because I wished too. I wish with all my heart that this could be different. And so do all of us who have worked with Katie J and Gabriel. We all wish this. But at the same time, the grief it slows you into an encounter with yourself. It slows me into a different relationship with myself and with my love of others. I just found myself kissing and hugging Jack, I think much more than he wanted to be kissed and hugged during the day, like when he's driving the car, for example. But just being, appreciative of whoever it is that comforts you in your life, and whoever it is who is in your life that you care about, and letting them know. This is the thing. I mean, I think we all appreciate, yes, but we take for granted, and we don't let each other know. We don't remember to always do that. And And I think when I slow into my own experience, I enter that just unmistakable sense of the mysteriousness of this life. And I always say of what we're involved in here, this mysterious presence, really kind of awe-inspiring, but ultimately compassionate mystery of being. It doesn't feel compassionate when KDJ and Gabriel get killed in this stupid way, not even in the line of their work. But then when I witness the outpouring of love from everybody who have loved them, not just their families, but the IACT family, and then the messages from the refugees coming in all over the world, just their devastation and their determination to carry on. It is ultimately, you see the compassionate side of the loss. And anyway, I want to thank you all for joining me in that openness and infinite tenderness of grief, what it brings us into together. I really thank you for that. And I think it's a time to do what my first teacher, the Korean Zen master, Daesan Sunim, used to say. He always used to tell us, don't be used by your karma. Don't be used by it. Use it. And he was talking about just whatever conditioning we have, whatever patterns of behavior we have, whatever habits, tendencies, saying don't let them be in charge of you, but use them in your life. Use them. Use your vulnerability, use your tenderness, use your fears to understand how it is for other people. He wasn't saying, triumph over them. He was just saying, use them in your practice. And I don't know about you, but it makes me just want to live whatever life I have left, to live it well. And to me, that means being generous, first and foremost, being imaginative and creative and compassionate. And to look at myself maybe with a little more tenderness. It's easy for me to look at all of you with tenderness, to extend more of that to myself. And then for all of us, not to take this life for granted. Please, please, not to take this life for granted. And to do this practice that frees our hearts and is the best preparation for death and dying, because that's when presence really matters. This is a brief poem by Juan Ramon Jimenez. It's called I Am Not I. I am this one walking beside me when I do not see, whom I do not see. I am this one walking beside me whom I do not see, whom at times I manage to visit, and who at other times I forget. The one who remains silent when I talk, the one who forgives, who is sweet when I hate, the one who takes a walk when I'm slumped indoors, the one who will remain standing when I die. So at the end of this Thanksgiving holiday, just appreciating this most basic gift of the breath, of this life we share, and the ability to be generous and compassionate and loving with each other every chance we get. This is just some of what I want to share with you this morning. And now to do two things, to encourage you to come to a breakout group after the talk. We take a 10-minute break and then have breakout groups, and that's a chance to be with a smaller group, get to know each other more. And also, I just want to encourage you to reflect on these things. Thanksgiving is a time when we have gratitude and a feast and a celebration. For the Wampanoag tribes, you know, Thanksgiving is a day of mourning for Indigenous people. And I read an article that the Wampanoag people are very sorry that they fed the pilgrims at Thanksgiving. You know, they feel sorrow about what happened after that. So just to be present with all of it, the joy, the feast, the sorrow, the regret, the love, everything that is not of love in this life, to be present with all of it here together. This is what we're doing. So thank you, everybody. If you have any questions about your practice, or if you have anything that you would like to share, if you'd like to know more about the work of IACT, anything that you'd like to say or share, you can raise your hand and then unmute yourself, and Caroline will call on you, and we can have a chance to connect with each other. And I just want to say before I forget that next Sunday I will be teaching the retreat, this retreat that's in honor of Ram Dass. And I realize some of you might not know who Ram Dass even is. Ram Dass is a spiritual teacher from the last century. He was one of the early teachers to bring mostly Hindu teachings, but non-dual teachings to the young Westerners that we were, and was part of the psychedelic movement in those days. And he suffered a stroke about 20 years before he died, a little more than 20 years before he died. And it completely changed his life. He spent the next 20 plus years half paralyzed in a wheelchair. And he had been this super eloquent Harvard professor guy who then had aphasia and could only speak in limited ways, and how he handled that experience and became, as his friend Krishna Das said, Ram Dass became, after 40 years, the man we always thought he was 40 years earlier. When he was teaching us, he became a real beacon of love, just could totally radiate it. So I can't remember if it's Gulu or which teacher. They're all good teachers. They're different, but I want you to support them. Oh no, Gulu is the 12th. We'll tell you who is on the 5th. It's always posted. So please support those teachers, and I will see you in a couple weeks. So this is your chance. Raise your hand, unmute yourself. Liz.
Hi, Liz. Yeah.
Hi, thank you, Trudy. This was the talk I needed this morning. I appreciate that. Can you talk a little bit about the poem, I Am Not I? I kind of understand it. I've just never heard anybody talk about it. And I love it. And I know that Jack loves it. And
it's one of the big
would you?
MBSR poems. They read it in all the mindfulness-based stress reduction classes. It's
I
a
understand that.
classic. Can I ask you why you love it?
Well, I knew you were going to do this, so I was getting my answer ready.
Yeah, my job is your wisdom, not mine.
Well, I want to hear your wisdom. I know about my wisdom, you know. I'd like to hear somebody else's wisdom. It's hopeful, you know. It's kind of like my better half. You know,
I think that's, yeah. I think you said it. I think it is. It's about our better half, the half that is often obscured. The clarity, you know, it's often obscured. The clarity of our better half, which you could call our true self, you know, our Buddha nature, our divine spirit. I mean, whatever. It's that part of us that really is connected to all life. It's that part of us that that is aware and that is always that we can always tap into when we remember. That's the part, that's the tricky part. That's why in Sanskrit, the word for mindfulness, smriti, means remembering, remembering to be present, remembering our, what did you call it? Our better selves, or whatever you called it. Yeah. Remembering
How about our bigger self? Our
bigger
self.
selves, exactly, our
Yeah.
bigger selves. And that bigger self knows so clearly that we're not separate from the rest of creation. That bigger self knows this and grieves for the species that we're losing, and the planet that many different people, including some who are here in this meeting, are working to save. And it's the part of us that doesn't feel separate, and I think that's the key, because so often we walk around encapsulated in our thought world, feeling separate. So my understanding, where is it? Where is the poem? Here it is. What I like it when he says, at times I manage to visit this other self. And that's also why we meditate, Liz, because it enhances, it extends the visiting hours that we might have with our other self, this best self.
Well, sometimes this journey is very, very hard.
Exactly.
And many times, if we've taken on this journey, which I have,
That's right.
it can be very hard. And I love this because there's a sense of companionship here.
Yes. Yes, that you aren't walking alone.
Yeah.
I love that hymn, You Never Walk Alone. It's really very beautiful. Yeah. And I also love, I didn't read this one, but this is from Rumi, who says, today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. There are days like that, right? Don't open the door to the study and start reading. I would say, don't pick up your phone and start reading.
Or your detective novel.
Let the beauty, this is what I love, let the beauty we love be what we do. So if that beauty is, say, telling the truth, then you look at somebody like Frances Hogan, who is the Edward Snowden right now, I feel, of this moment in our history, the Facebook whistleblower. You look at the work of Oliver Stone, you look at people who are telling their truth. And it's the beauty that we love, make that the beauty that we do. And then he says there are hundreds of ways to kiss the ground. And that speaks to each one of us, right? Having different gifts. And your gift might be just to smile at people you see, or say a kind word. I mean, it doesn't have to be some big, huge talent, like the two brilliant people I just mentioned. It can be something much simpler. Anyway, thank you. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody. I'm looking at the messages. In the chat. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Powerful activists. Yeah. Anybody else have a hand up? I'm looking at the chat, so I'm trusting you, Caroline, to be looking for hands. And yes, Jim, we're going to at some point have some kind of fundraiser at InsightLA to support them and to support continuing the work. It's just that nobody's even been able to write an obituary yet. We're just at the beginning stages of all this.
Trudy, is it okay if I ask a question? Oh, Jules has a question. She can go
Yes,
first.
and of course you can ask a question.
Thank you. Trudy, so when you are, dealing with this process of
Can you
grief,
speak up a little bit, Jules, just because I can't see you? If you could
yes.
turn on
Can
your
you hear me?
camera, that would be ideal. But if you can't, just speak up a little. Thanks.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So do you just let yourself grieve? Do you not fight it? Do you just let yourself cry? Like, what is this
Yes.
process that you go through? I would love to hear that.
For example, when Jocelyn told me what had happened, I was standing, in the airport at the luggage carousel, and Jules, I had no problem sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. I don't know how long I stood there and did that. It was a long time. I think Jack was going to get the rental car. I just let myself cry, because the way I think of it is like weather, here where I am, it's on the north shore of this island. And so it's the colder part, it's the rainier part, it's where where Jaws, these huge waves are here. And so I think of it like the weather, because sometimes you get rainbows, the sun is out, but there's drizzle, or this intense rain will just sweep through, but it doesn't last. I mean, I'm sure it can, but just the time that we've been here, it doesn't last. And then it's just cloudy or misty, or as the sun bursts through again. So the grief is like that for me. It's like a sudden storm of just tears. And yes, I let myself cry. How about you?
I think I'm trying to be okay with that grief and just let it take its course until I'm done grieving.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
for
And you
sharing
might
that.
cry for a really long time before the sun comes out again, but
Mhm.
nobody can cry for 24 hours. You know what I mean? There will be gaps and spaces.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you. Good luck with your crying. I'll tell you one last thing, Jules. When I ran into somebody I hadn't seen, this was years and years ago. I ran into somebody I hadn't seen for a long time, and she looked great. And I said, "What is your secret? What are you doing? You look radiant." And she said, "Oh, I'm meditating and I'm crying a lot." So I think there's something about just letting ourselves feel what we feel and trusting and being present with that has a certain radiance, even though it doesn't physically show. All you have is, puffy eyes and stuff. So Cheryl, yeah.
Hi, Trudy. I'm sorry about your friends.
Thank
And
you.
I have a question. It's related to grief, but it's also related to the second arrow. In, there's other types of grief, of course, besides when people die. Like for myself,
Of course.
Right. Yeah, I have a friend who, difficulties on and off. And I feel very hurt. Sometimes I just think he really acts like a jerk, frankly. And, I try to absorb it and stay separate from it and understand it's his stuff, but then it really hurts. And then it's like someone who's like very close to my very best friend. So I can't just separate them out from my life. And there's a lot of grief in it, and it touches lots of other patterns in my life. So I'm wondering if you could maybe speak to the difference between the second arrow and like kind of causing myself pain, like, going back into it versus just trying to be honest and true with it. Like it really does hurt me. And then I think of all these strategies to like not have to move away from this family that I love so much and kind of protect myself. And that's a lot of control and
Well,
along that line.
protecting yourself, I don't see that as controlling. It's when you're trying to do it to other people,
Yeah.
Protecting yourself is really important. And one way to protect yourself is just what you're saying, to let yourself be sad about it. And that's the first arrow. It's just, this is sad. People I love who behave this way and hurt me, that's sad. The second arrow is stuff like this always happens to me in my close relationships. I'll never find love that's free of pain. Blah, blah, blah. You see what I mean? Like that kind of self-talk. Or, yeah, he is such a jerk. And if he would only, as opposed to, I need to figure out how to establish some kind of boundaries so that I know when this happens, yes, it hurts, but I can just say to myself, okay, this is how it is. This is not all of the relationship. This is the painful part, and turn away and do what I can do to take care of myself. It's not easy, but you need, and you probably need support. So if you can have support, somebody you talk to who can, because when we're trying to interrupt the patterns, it's not easy, you know, it's really not. It's just not.
The person I would talk to is his wife, which makes it really complicated because I don't want to.
Really complicated. I don't suggest that one.
No.
But what I want to also say to you, Cheryl, is you have a lot of mindful awareness. You see a lot. You see the first arrow. You see the second arrow. That is the first. Without that, you're nowhere. But the fact that you can see it means it's workable. You just haven't quite found your way to work with it yet.
Yeah, and it just happened. So it's another, this happens periodically. It's very, very fresh. So.
Yeah, the holidays bring these fresh wounds often. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your awareness and your seeing.
Thanks to you guys coming along.
Yeah, we're with you. We're on the ride with you. So Caroline, you had a question.
Yes, my question was earlier, you kind of talked about the teachings around non-attachment, but then you brought up that love is related to that. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that relationship, because I know everyone says to detach, but at the same time, love is just a really important concept.
Yeah, you know, it's a great question because it's a tricky point. To me, we have to distinguish between attachment in Western psychology, which is an achievement to be able to care and to be in a relationship and to let yourself be vulnerable enough to love somebody. All of those things are like psychological achievements, if you will. You know, Robert, whose hand is up, is a therapist. He knows what I'm talking about. But then in the Buddhist psychology, attachment means being stuck on something, like you're attached, you've fixated something, like I'm attached to Katie J and Gabriel, for example. This is just an example. And so I fixate on, this can't be true. They cannot be dead. I go into denial because I don't want to feel my grief or face the painful loss. That's attachment. Now, attachment and love have a tricky dance with each other, because when we love people, it's sort of like that poem and what Liz was saying about our best self. When we love somebody, our best self just loves them and wants the best for them and whatever makes them happy. But the other self that's a little bit smaller minded, shall we say, gets possessive and I don't really want you talking to that person, even if it makes you happy, because it makes me jealous. And do you know what I mean? All of these ego-based, more small-minded things come up. And to me, that's the attachment piece that comes with love, that possessiveness happen.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
And Ram Dass tells this great story about, and this is a story about attachment to ego, about visiting his brother who was in a mental hospital. Because his brother believed he was Jesus and was having this kind of manic episode of being very inflated and knowing that he was the savior who had come to earth. And Ram Dass visited him in the hospital. And at one point, his brother looked at him and said, look, I'm a lawyer. I wear shirts and ties. I have a family. And I'm here in the mental hospital. You wear beads, you have a long beard, you wear, white Indian clothes and walk barefoot, and you're out there. Why? And Ram Dass said to him, because I know I am a holy person. And his brother said, no, 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 that's me. I'm the holy person. And Ram Dass said, that's why you're in the mental hospital and I'm walking free. I believe we are all holy spirits deep down, but you think it's just you. And that's what got you put away. If you had said we are all Jesus, we are all, you probably wouldn't have got, anyway, it's just a silly story, but I think it's a true story that happened. And I also think it says something about the two selves, the one that can expand and the one that gets attached and fixated.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Robert, I see you have your hand up. I think this
Robert,
might
we have
be
time for one
the
more, and
last
it's you,
question.
Robert.
Yeah.
Hi, I feel quite emotional. And I think it's just you just sharing, it's the greatest teaching you've ever done, Trudy, which is just being present in your grief and allowing yourself to share it with us. It's the bravest thing. It's the tenderest thing. And I just am so appreciative. I think it's such a great lesson. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It just seems so normal. I love you all. I trust you all. And I'm sad.
Yeah. It's a great lesson because most people don't do that. And it is what we need to do. We just need to talk it through, let it out. So I appreciate it. And it touches me in so many different ways, coming home for Thanksgiving and being with my 92-year-old mother who's still spry, but I know it's not forever. And to be present, to be as present with her, even when I know she's going away, it's really hard. And so it's a wonderful lesson. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for telling us about your mom. I said to Jack, we're in trouble when people start calling us spry. Because I'm a very active person, and people started calling me spry. And I was like, huh.
I'll add
Okay.
this one other point. My mom, she jokes, she says, now, when I die, no one's going to call it a tragedy. I'm too old. It pisses me off.
It'll be a tragedy for you, Robert.
Yes.
Tell her that. Oh, thank you. Gabby, we only have 1 minute, but if you can have 1 minute.
Is it Miss Wildflower Lena? You've had your hand up for a while, just raising it.
See. Oh, sorry.
If your
Lenny,
question's really quick.
I just want to say Miss Wildflower, Lenny is my oldest friend. We were in preschool together. She lives in London.
You're muted.
I'm sorry, Lenny. I'm not looking at all the tiles, so.
Lenny, you're muted.
There was a lot more, but I want to get into it. But all I want to say is I've been feeling very lonely and and then just being in this group has really helped a lot. And I love Trudy. And here's my story is Trudy was beautiful, amazing, did everything, and I was nothing. And that's the story that I had. And Trudy, I swear to God, it's the story. And I just read it in old notebooks that I wrote. And it's just so wonderful to know you now and to rely on you and to be around you.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody the story of I was very jealous of Lenny when I was, I think it was about 5-year-old birthday party.
I think it was my 5th birthday party.
It was your 5th birthday party. That's what I thought. So Lenny was wearing this really pretty yellow dress with puffy sleeves, and I just couldn't stand it. And I grabbed her dress and I pulled on it and I ripped a sleeve off. And my father was called from across the street where we lived and led me home from the birthday party in total disgrace for having torn the birthday girl's dress off of her arm.
Anyway, all I can tell you is Trudy's parents are they're both gone now, but were as precious to me, really almost as my own parents. They were very important. So I have this wonderful connection, and I'm so grateful. And Trudy, just thank God you're here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love
Thank you for being here. I love you too, Lenny. I'm really happy to see you, and I owe you a letter, and I will write it.
All right, don't worry. I'm here. I'm here.
I'm really happy to see you. And if everybody, you can, if you want to take your break before the breakout groups, please do that. But I want to let Gabby speak because she's been waiting, and I want to hear what you have to say, Gabby. And I love you, Lenny.
Thank you, Trudy.
Unmute yourself, Gabby.
For giving me a chance to talk at the last minute. But first, I just want to share
Can
with
you
you.
speak up a little bit? Sound isn't great here.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I just want to, I'm sorry for the loss. I can't imagine, and also thank you for being here with us and teaching during this moment of grief, because that shows to me you're a great teacher. I wouldn't say like, hey, Rory, take the day off, go to the ocean, relax. But you're here with us.
I did that yesterday.
So thank you. And I just want to also thank Jack, because you both have a way to help people, and you help me so much with the anxiety moments. And this week is better, by the way. So, but it's like riding the waves of life. And I remember one time I was grieving, and Jack stood in front of me with his hand on his heart. And I'm placing my hand there too, because you could feel that grief and so authentic. Like I was like, how is it humanly possible that somebody could feel it without saying much? And I think that's how it is, right? Like in this moment of people passing away at this moment or any time in life, that we can all be there for each other. So my hand is on my heart.
Thank you.
For you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. Our formal time together is over. And Cheryl, so what happens now is people take a break. Depending on your time zone, you might have some lunch or just a bio break, whatever. And then there are, Caroline will put people in small groups to talk together about practice and today and whatever's happening in your life. And I will miss you the next 2 weeks, but then I will be back and look forward to seeing you before the next holidays. So thank you, everybody, for being here, for supporting the teachers to come. And you can unmute yourselves and say hi, goodbye. And yeah, see you soon.
Thank you so much, Trudy. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
You.
Thank you,
Have a good
Trudy.
week, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone who shared.
Bye.
Thanks, Trudy.
Bye.
See you in the breakout groups.